and welcome to Tech Talk. I am Jennifer Cooper, the host of the show, and today we welcome Ms. Dana Kovach, who's CEO of Kovach Marketing. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ms. Dana.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to have this conversation.
Very excited to have you. I have to say I'm a longtime fan of your work, your dedication to creativity and home building and to our industry. And I have so much respect for you as a strong, inspiring female leader. So thank you so much for joining me today. So yeah, you've been doing, tell us a little bit about your firm and a little bit about your background for anybody that doesn't know you. I'll be surprised.
Well, I do play a little bit below the radar, as you know.
Yeah, you actually do, but I've watched your career, so.
Well, thank you, and I'm so flattered. I was just, again, so flattered to be invited to be here today. And my background, I started in consumer research way back when, right out of school, graduating from Boulder, Colorado. And started working with the LA Times in their consumer research department. Yeah. And living in Los Angeles, I had enough of that after about 11 months. And then I came down and found another research position with a company called Walker & Lee. And it was a full service real estate firm that served developers and builders. So starting on the research side of things, I had the opportunity to learn so much about the entire process, from land acquisition to planning to construction, architecture, all of it. And then stepped over into the light, shall we say, stepped over to the advertising side. Gentleman found me working on a weekend and said, I kind of like your hours. And I said, well, sure, I'd be happy to move into the marketing and branding side of things. And so that was many years ago. Okay. And I worked with him, working with Shea Homes as one of my very first clients, and I still work with them today. So talk about longevity. It's been over 35 years since I've been in the business. And after being with them for about 7 years, he was ready to retire and I was ready to acquire his company, and the rest is history. We've been riding the roller coaster ever since.
I don't think we could decide to get off on the ride, but we haven't yet, right?
Right, exactly. It's exhilarating at times, shall we say.
That's fantastic. And so you serve primarily, just for the viewers, home builders, and nationally, any particular area of the country?
So my team and I, we work across the country. And we are a full service firm. So we have the management, the digital, the creative, all of the above, with a real passion for branding. So we've rebranded companies such as Century Homes and View Homes, and we've worked on the various levels of Shea's brands. TriPoint, we actually introduced TriPoint Homes when they first came to the market, which talk about an amazing opportunity. But we not only are working with builders and developers, because we also work in the world of master plans, but we work with the associates, whether they're landscape architects, interior designers, risk management, mortgage. So we do touch on all of the moving parts of the industry itself. And occasionally we'll step outside of that. And we've been in food, sports, fashion, and because what we do is applicable to all these different industries. You understand this better than most, that there's listening to your clients, listening to their needs, understanding who their customers are, and then moving into that creative positioning phase of the development. So
sure, there's a little bit of amazing and a little bit of crazy in all those different industries.
It's a great way to describe it.
We all have our challenges, and definitely, there's definitely a tie that binds how we use our tool belt across all of them. So I love that. Well, thank you for giving a little bit more explanation for anybody that didn't know about your firm. So what we're going to do today is we're going to dig into like where the market is, and then dig into where is the opportunity for creativity, messaging, responding in today's market. It's a soft market. There's a lot of uncertainty between rates and where prices are, and is the consumers just really sitting on their hands. Everybody's hungry for solutions. So I want to talk a little bit about, with your expertise, with your team's expertise, how you are working with your brands and your home builders to respond into this market. How are you getting people to really move off the couch, right? Like my goal as a home builder marketer is get people, if they're on the couch, I want them on my website and I want them being inspired, but then we want to get them to the community. We talk a lot about that at fOCUS360 too. So our first question, digging into the current market, it's definitely been, I think, really a wild ride over the last 10 years. We've had some really unpredictable COVID, post-COVID ups and downs, a lot of middle ground. How do you keep your clients focused on their set strategy and planning? And then how are you working with them to manage the message reaction really in the last year? So I think the challenge is, they come and like, these are our goals for the year. These are our communities that we're going to open. But the minute something changes, they go into a lot of reactionary mode. So how do you kind of coach them through those times?
That's a great question, because as you well know, sometimes that Monday morning meeting can be a little tense because the sales that came in on Sunday are not what they expected them to be. So they have the desire to react in the moment. But the way we go about, refocusing on strategy and on goals is to look back. Okay, guys, this is where we are. Let's look at what the traffic levels were to our websites, to our sales offices, and so forth. So, how long does we just have a bigger conversation as to what took place weeks prior to that weekend, and what should we be expecting as the next couple of weeks roll by? Because, we know today that buyers are being faced with so many different messages about interest rates and buy downs and incentives and so forth. And, we have to ask ourselves, is this bolstering their confidence or tearing it down? So we do need to be sure that we're not reacting in the moment and reacting to that. We want to give them more reason to arrive at your sales office. I mean, there's so many different dynamics that are affecting this today. But getting back to your question about how to stay on strategy and on goal is just to take a moment, before you start going down that rabbit hole, take a moment to remind yourself of where you are in your goals, in reaching the number of sales and the closings, and how close you are to meeting goal, and how many weeks do we have left to actually realize that, so that it becomes manageable. It becomes, realistic in your mind, and then you move forward. So based on that conversation, what we're looking at, what do we need to be doing this week and the following weeks? And we try not to stay too focused on the immediate, but as you well know, you need to be able to be fluid and react and bring the answers forward in that moment.
Sure.
So, yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Because we may be reacting to different things over the time frame. So yeah, I think there is definitely a bit of what do we need to accomplish this week versus what might we need to accomplish in the next 3 weeks, and how do we start to morph that message?
Yeah.
For
And
sure.
the topic that is spoken about probably more times than not is the quick move-ins here locally. And that is something that needs immediate attention. We need to be discussing how we're going to but we need to know, when you say quick move-in, do you mean they can move in today? They can move in tomorrow with all cash? Can they move in 30 days? Can they? And let's frame it accordingly, and really make that a possibility, both for the builder to move the client in and for the client to actually be able to move.
Yeah. Quick move-in does have it's a great comment, broad range, whether the house is going to be ready quicker than a to-be built dirt start. What is that definition, right?
Right. Yeah. And it varies.
Yeah, and it can totally, absolutely, totally vary. When you're thinking about like another question add on to that, when you're thinking about performing in these softer markets, what do you in your experience believe, you've seen a lot of research, you started in research. Do you believe that the customer really wants or reacts best to in these softer markets?
I think in these softer markets, I think empathy goes a long way. We know that people are making the decision to move based on a life stage of change in their priorities. Is it the growth of their family? Is it, being an empty nester? We don't know till we have those conversations and,
Sure.
really gain understanding of where they are. And then from there, helping them understand, okay, well, this is where you are in your life. This is, an opportunity for you to move into this model home over here or this community over here, but let's show you how it can happen. So it's truly that communication, that transparency, that understanding of what your potential buyers are going through and what their needs are that'll help you craft your message properly. It's not, we've done some work recently where we've been summarizing subject lines from different emails and looking at what these messages are. And they can be from the same builder 2-3 times a week. And it's rate buy downs, it's, certain incentives, it's quick move-ins, it's this, but there's nothing there that's really building confidence in the moment. They're just giving them all of this information that this is why you need to do this now. And urgency is important. Urgency is definitely important because it's part of the business plan.
Yeah.
And so we need to think about, okay, how do we get to that place while understanding what their needs are and bringing the two together?
Sure. And it all becomes, if it's a reactionary message and the first time it's heard, it may drive more urgency, but then it's been heard a lot going into, a 9-month, 12-month cycle. Now it's what I call the sea of sameness. So how are you starting to stand out with a different message that's going to make me react a little bit differently? And I do find that builders they all jump on the same bandwagon. Media says one thing, we react, and then the builders tend to want to jump on the same bandwagon. So I appreciate like thinking about, I always say someone doesn't call they didn't call you to get the interest rate that you're offering. They call because they want a house.
Right.
So if we could lead with that thought, how different would our conversations be, right? Walking in, whether it's in an ad or walking in. So definitely connect with that. Kind of moving along, when you guys are tracking, when your team is tracking I know you're tracking your brand impact and voice of the customer. Obviously, that's a huge piece of where agencies can create that value. Our customers are always looking for that ROI. So builders are tracking leads, but when we don't have the leads, what KPIs are you driving with your clients, and how do you help them see kind of the value metrics of the bottom? It's not just the bottom line sales figures, because right now we're trying to make the customer, or not make, but help our builders understand what their advertising is doing for them. They're not really throwing money down the drain if they're not getting the leads in. But what are you watching in terms from a KPI standpoint?
Well, we're watching the traffic levels to the website itself, obviously, because as we know, that whole process, the search, the education, all starts there. That's nothing new today. So when we're running campaigns, we layer that over what is the traffic to the website. So while it sometimes doesn't necessarily show that it came from a specific campaign, you can make some conclusions. So if all of a sudden you see your traffic spiking and that just so happens to connect with, some promotion that you've put out there, There's a good chance one related to the other, but we do try and employ tracking codes and things like that to get as close as we can to reality. But you know, to really measure what we're doing, it does come down to the number of conversations that are taking place. You know, did you receive that phone call asking you about the new home that's available to move in the next 90 days? What is the package and then you know that there's been some impact. You've moved that person off, neutral to making a move and making that call. So we ask our sales teams, so what have you seen? What kind of conversations are you having? Are you following up with the people that have gone dark? And have you asked those questions as to, did you make another decision and why did you make that decision? Or, not that you're calling to belittle them for making that decision, but to learn from it. So, our KPIs are not only the impact of the brand and how we're moving the needle, but it's also the lessons learned where someone may have dropped off the screen. So, but there's the traditional KPIs. It's the traffic to the, offices. It's the phone calls that are made. It's the emails that are returned or engaged with. It's all of that. But most importantly, it's, the conversations that they are having on the ground or, in their offices.
Yeah. My first question to like my online sales counselors first thing Monday mornings is, what are people calling in saying? Like, what are some of their first questions? Because that tells us how the messaging is resonating, or, it just gives us a little bit more detail. Because you're right, we can catch where someone's clicking, engaging, opening, all of those different things. And then on the other side of the fence, it's interesting to see what my closing managers will capture in conversation, what we're capturing in their customer experience surveys, and matching that to some of the front end conversation, right. Because you may get a little bit of a different story about really what brought them in after they've let their guard down and gone further through the funnel. Right. So I sometimes find some interesting insights on that side of the fence too.
I'm curious. We were talking earlier about how, this last 6 months or so has been a little interesting, shall we say. Have you seen those conversations changing over time? Are they more empathetic? Are they more personal? Are you seeing them change?
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit more personal. In the beginning, they may be coming like in asking where the deal is, right? Like, where's the opportunity? Or we find out later on that they came in a little bit more intimate, sometimes at the closing table and in those conversations about what was important to them through the process. And sometimes they don't know. Like, if they're a first time home buyer, they don't know. They may be really going off of gut of, I know where I have to live because of location, and two, I know what my budget is. Those are important, but they don't really know that, wow, I felt like I needed an advisor, either with my real estate agent or my sales agent, depending on how good they were. I didn't know how much I didn't know about construction, and man, it was important that superintendent really walked me through my various walks of my home to understand it. So I think they have different discoveries, and maybe answer that question a little bit more after they've gone through it to realize what they missed and what they didn't. And that's so much more insightful to paint about a picture of what realistically would be a great experience, so that they get even more bought in on why this is going to feel special to build a brand new home versus buy a resale.
I love that feedback, because we're finding most recently more and more interest in financial workshops. Workshops to learn more about the buying process. And it's not always the first time buyer. It's the buyer that has that incredible interest rate, wanting to find out, can I really make it work at the new rates?
Yeah.
And, it's not that they are a novice, but there's a lot more information out there to work with.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we have a whole new sea of buyers, like literally a whole nother generation coming in. So I've been bringing back more of the why rent, rent to buyer type of seminars because there is just this, I just feel like this education bubble that we're missing.
yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll find out. You're building your brand in that experience because
Oh,
it's we haven't even shook hands yet, but I want to
right.
get you that information. We're building a brand about care when we do that.
Well,
Um,
exactly. It comes all the way back around to really wanting to understand what their pain points are, what their opportunity is, and to share, your own experience and share a little bit of what they're going through.
yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah, and empathy. I think you mentioned
yeah.
empathy very early on. I think that's important. One, it's scary to buy a house. Two, it's uncertain times. Three, they haven't done it. They don't know what it looks like. It's scary to buy a car. I mean, my first
Yeah.
car, I was like, what am I doing? And the house is so much more maintenance and responsibility and cost. So I think that
So good.
empathy word is so, vastly important. So to keep moving along, so we do try to keep these tech talks relatively short, but I know that you and I have spent many hours talking about all things creativity. I would love to bring in the visualization aspect of the conversation because obviously Focus 360 offers at the visualization to move the needle on online and on-site experiences with sales and customer experience. So do you advise, does your team advise on assets? And if you do, what visualizations do you believe help facilitate, really drive that marketing greatness for the builder? Like, is there something that's like all of the builders we work with feel they should have this or this particular tool? Or any kind of those examples that you've seen work really well for your builders?
Well, there's so much out there today. And I look back at Steve's journey. I met him when he was first starting his company. I mean, both of us were newbies in the industry. And the way he was capturing views and the value behind that in the whole sales process and what we were doing was tremendous. And then fast forward to today with all that you are developing in many different platforms, the interactive platforms, and making it easy for the customer to access something exciting, something they can relate to. Uh, I'm a firm believer that you need to look outside of your industry to what other industries are doing, because the home buyer is faced with that every day, every minute, and they do their own, whether they know it or not, they're comparing. So
Yeah.
you mentioned the automotive, they compare that opportunity to pull up their car, dream a little bit, change out the
Yeah.
leather, change out the detail, this and that, and they can get all involved in it. And so when they come to the home and it's the interactive or interactive floor plan, or it's the what do we call it, Matterport, or
Mhm.
it's the
Virtual tours.
virtual
Mhm.
tours and so forth. There's a missing piece. And I know behind the scenes, a lot of the companies are exploring how they can bring that to another level. And I'm really excited to see that. I'm really am, because we have to keep in mind what our buyers are seeing outside of the industry.
Mhm.
So, and we talked about earlier how it all starts online. So it's
Yes.
not just how it is being received in a sales office, it's how it's being received online, most importantly. And then for the investment that's involved, how can I use it in other ways? So those are when we sit with our clients and talk about the video work, the drone work, the interactive work, and so forth. We talk about, okay, we need it for this, but let's talk about how else we can use it,
Sure.
because that's a better way of, I won't say justify, because these are tools that they need, period.
Yeah.
It's end of the story. You cannot be marketing new homes without those tools in some fashion or another.
Yeah.
Um, So I was having a conversation just today about the interactive site plans.
Mm.
And we're all accustomed to those, right? Well,
Yes.
imagine if you could bring them to life in some fashion and not just about the click on the lot and the pop-up and the this and the that, but actually bring them to life as they're moving through the site plan and looking at the street scenes and doing all that. You know, I just think there's a incredible opportunity. I'm imagining it's being touched on right now.
Yeah.
Maybe not as in a robust way as I'd love to see, but
There's
so
still lots of opportunities to take things to another level with visualization, 3D, virtual. Yeah, there's always
yeah,
different mixes, coming in for sure. And squeezing out that marketing ROI. I think that's the greatest thing when I'm working with clients as well. It's like, how do you come in and say this is going to cost X, Y, Z, but we can pick it apart and use it in all these channels? Where do we kind of squeeze that ROI out of it? And that number isn't as hard to swallow because you know how much content it's going to give you in a lot of different ways.
right.
So definitely a
Well,
piece.
your interview with Jennifer regarding their first step when they opened their company was all about that, was all about investing in the interactive tools that are available. And what a smart move. What a very smart move. And so now she's got this incredible platform to work with, right? And she can take a breath and sit back for a minute and say, okay, what other tools do we need as we move forward? So we do advise our clients, in different scenarios, whether it's be a single one-off kind of project, or if it's an overall corporate branding approach and making sure you're consistently, hitting on all the same cylinders as you're executing. So.
Yeah, for sure. And Jennifer Johnson, smaller builder,
Yes.
looking to be innovative out of the gate. So it's not just something that a larger national builder has to do. It's a choice, and it's a choice how they want to show up for their brand, for their customer experience, and competitively. So, in these softer markets, it really makes a difference when we're going after less fish in the pond, where that sticky factor can show up.
I love the fact that she identified that as a priority. As while she's a smaller builder, she's just starting off. She identified it as a priority and she made it happen, and she invested in it, and it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. It was a good choice. Love it. Well, I want to be mindful of your time, but last but not least, I always love to ask with a little bit of a personal question, kind of fun. How do you keep your creativity flowing and activated? Do you ever get creativity fatigue, and what do you do about it? 'Cause I think it's hard to be the creative, the person someone's always coming to for ideas. So is that, or maybe it's not an issue for you? I have days where I just need a moment for the creativity to come back.
Oh, I think we all have those days. We all have those days, like, especially if we've been in the business as long as we have, right? And I love, as I mentioned earlier, I love looking outside of our industry. I love looking to see what fashion's all about. If you just look at your colors and you look at your textures, but you look at the way people are wearing these clothes, what their lifestyle's like, these are the same people that are buying these new homes, or they are moving into an incredible lifestyle apartment community, or they're finding, new housing alternatives in the modular world. There's all sorts of, but understanding who your buyer is and, looking at what their lifestyles and looking at those creative platforms and what, they're exposed to, that's where I have some fun. And then I have a tendency to just take from one step to the next, and then we could do this and we can do that and we can, and it's like, whoa, let's dial it back a little bit. Well, now, what is the budget? And I said, well, there is no budget. We're just going to move forward and make this happen.
That's
so, my team is always teasing me, saying that I have a tendency to always say, let's just make it happen. We'll find a way. There's different ways to make it happen. with different budgets, different strategies and so forth. There's always a way to make it happen. And if we can pull from basically life to
Yeah.
find our creativity, then you just keep moving forward.
We're technically surrounded by content everywhere, really.
Isn't that the truth? Think about it. Think about it. I mean,
Right?
you have your phone in your hand, you're scrolling through this way too much, right?
There's way too much. Yeah.
And but it's there. It's like, to your point, it surrounds us every day, every hour. It's all good. So
Awesome. Well,
it's
thank you. Loved your ideas, loved your points, love the branding and work that your team has done. Again, thank you so much. I admire you.
Thank
You've always
you.
been a silent mentor to me, whether you would know it or not. I always tell someone, find someone to just admire and understand their career. And then I feel blessed that we've had some time to get to know each other the last few years. So thank you so much.
I do too, Jennifer. This has been a real treat. And I have to say one more thing, that not only have I thoroughly enjoyed getting to know you, you asked me my source of creativity and passion. My great niece and nephew just showed up at the office. So
There you go. There you go. They're
There
going to
it
give you
is.
some new content.
yeah, I got the new generation here.
Awesome.
So,
Well, thanks
all
again.
right.
And thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in today. And you can catch our segments on Spotify and YouTube and Vimeo. Until next time,
Thank
thank
you.
you.